Hey everyone. Welcome back to Learn English Naturally. I'm Cheryl. We've all been in a high-stakes job interview where everyone is trying to sound like a business genius. Today, our friend Arthur, a fresh graduate, faced two aggressive candidates, James and Esme, who seemed to know everything about the company's financial report. It felt like a losing battle for Arthur. But wait until the interviewer reveals a terrifying secret about the interview itself. The plot twist today will completely change how you think about workplace English. Let's jump straight into the story. The interview started, and it immediately turned into a battlefield. James and Esme were trying to outsmart each other. They didn't just want to answer Ethan's questions. They wanted to totally dominate the conversation.
If I can just interject here, according to the internal financial report you sent us, my strategy can fix your 40% deficit in 2 weeks. Clearly, my approach is superior.
Well, to play devil's advocate, James, that 40% deficit is a surface issue. My data-driven method can patch the back-end software loophole mentioned on page 5 of your report. That's what this company actually needs.
They were completely absorbed in their own egos, throwing big numbers around. Arthur sat between them, completely frozen. His stomach was in knots. He looked at his copy of the report, his heart racing. Something felt completely wrong with the numbers, but he couldn't find a gap to speak. It felt like being trapped in a room with 2 ticking time bombs. Suddenly, Ethan slowly taps his pen on the table. Tap, tap. The room instantly goes cold. James and Esme freeze. Ethan's face is like stone.
Let's freeze right there. I didn't invite you here for a school debate. You both seem highly confident, but confidence without substance is a liability. Introductions are over. Now, tell me, what is your ultimate edge? What exactly can you bring to the table based on that report? Because from where I sit, we are wasting valuable time.
The words hit them like a physical blow. The sudden change in the room was terrifying. Instantly, the silence was deafening. James and Esme, who were just shouting a second ago, their faces turned completely pale. Their heads dropped low, staring at the floor. Total, dead silence. Arthur's heart was pounding in his ears. He looked at Ethan's death stare, took a deep breath, and broke the horrific silence.
Actually, Mr. Ethan, I can't answer that based on this report. Because the math on page 5 is completely impossible. A 40% deficit cannot coexist with the profit margins listed in Chapter 1. This report is flawed. Before we show off our skills, we need to know what the real challenge is that your team is trying to tackle right now, because this paper is a ghost.
James and Esme gasp, staring at Arthur as if he just committed career suicide. Ethan stares at Arthur for 5 long, agonizing seconds, then, a slow, brilliant smile breaks across his face.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Congratulations, Arthur. You are the only one who passed the real test.
But Mr. Ethan, we analyzed the data you sent us.
Yes, James. I sent you and Esme a fake, corrupted report filled with mathematical traps. You were both so busy trying to look perfect that you didn't even bother to check if the facts were real. You blindly followed a lie just to win an argument. Arthur was the only one who had the integrity and the courage to call out the truth. Welcome aboard, Arthur.
Oh my goodness. What a corporate mind game. My heart was in my mouth. Ethan didn't just ask a hard question. He set an absolute trap. James and Esme completely fell for it because they wanted to look like sharks, but Arthur's honesty and sharp eyes saved the day. Did you catch those powerful words they used during the debate and when the room went cold? Let's look at them closely. No boring textbook rules, just real, practical English you can use immediately. Alright, let's kick things off with James. Remember when he suddenly jumped into the conversation and cut Esme off? In standard English, You might just say he interrupted. But James used a much more polished, upper-class corporate word. He said, "If I can just interject here. When you're in a meeting or a casual discussion, and you want to politely jump in and add your opinion, this is the perfect word. Instead of saying 'Can I talk?' or 'Sorry to interrupt,' which can sound a bit aggressive, interject makes you sound incredibly professional, smooth, and polite. It's a total game changer for workplace English. Let's say you're in a heated meeting. You could say, 'Sorry to interject, but I think we missed an important detail.'" Moving on to our next brilliant phrase, which Esme used to fire back at James. She said, "Well, to play devil's advocate." You will hear this phrase all the time in business environments and daily conversations. It means you are presenting an opposite point of view, not because you genuinely disagree with the person, but just to help the team think about the problem more deeply from all angles. It's a clever way to test if a plan is good without making people feel attacked. Here's how you can use it. "I agree with your plan, but let me play devil's advocate for a second. What if the budget is cut?" That brings us to a super useful expression from the story. They were completely absorbed in their own egos. Think of a sponge absorbing water. It drinks it all up. When you are absorbed in something, it means you are so deeply focused on one thing that you completely forget everything else around you. A classic case of this is when someone is so absorbed in their work that they don't even hear their phone ring. Now, let's look at a phrase that I bet we've all felt in real life. While the other two were debating, poor Arthur was sitting there with his stomach in knots. We all know the basic word nervous, right? But native English speakers love to describe how anxiety feels physically. When you are super stressed, worried, or scared before an interview, a test, or a big presentation. It literally feels like your stomach is twisting into tight, uncomfortable knots. Picture this. You're standing backstage, waiting to give a massive presentation, and your stomach is completely in knots. And finally, our absolute heavy hitter for today, a phrase that is pure drama. Right after Ethan snapped and told them they were wasting his time, the story said, "The silence was deafening." Wait a second. How can silence be deafening or loud? Well, this is a beautiful B2-level literary expression. When a room suddenly goes from very noisy to dead silent, especially because of shock, embarrassment, or intense fear, the quietness feels so heavy and stressful that it almost hurts your ears. It's perfect for adding high drama when you tell a story. Imagine you're asking a crowd who broke the window, and no one answers. That silence is deafening. Which of these 5 feelings have you felt in an interview? Tell me in the comments. Now that you've mastered these 5 powerful expressions, let's put your brain to the test. We are going to replay Arthur's interview nightmare, but this time, it's 100% in English using the phrases we just learned. Relax, listen closely, and see how much easier it is to feel the vibe now. Arthur was in a stressful 3-person group interview. The other 2 candidates, James and Esme, started to debate aggressively. James tried to interject, while Esme decided to play devil's advocate. They were totally absorbed in their own argument, leaving Arthur with his stomach in knots, unable to speak. Suddenly, Ethan stopped them with a brutal question. Instantly, the silence was deafening as James and Esme hung their heads in fear. But Arthur spoke the uncomfortable truth, broke the silence, and unexpectedly saved the day. What an incredible lesson! Arthur proved that in the real world, honesty and sharp thinking always beat blind confidence. Group interviews can be terrifying, but now you have the perfect, natural vocabulary to navigate any intense discussion like a pro. If you loved this crazy story twist and want to keep upgrading your English, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with a friend who's preparing for an interview. And remember, don't just learn it, speak it naturally. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.